Welcome to the Cicero regular town board meeting, Wednesday, June 26, 2024 at 6:30 PM. Please note there are two exits in the rear of the room and one to my right. And at this time, if you please silence your cell phones and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing and remember those who are serving in harm's way. Thank you. This time, if anyone would like to come up and comment on the any of the agenda items that are on anything but the public hearings. Thank you. Okay, we'll start out with number 3. It's Councilor Hogan.
Move for the adoption of a resolution to approve abstract number 25 dated 6/19/2024 and abstract number 26 dated 6/27/2024.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Public hearing and consider a moratorium of the construction of certain types of battery storage, energy storage systems. This time I'd wish to waive the reading of the legal notices that were posted and advertised.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye. Beat you to it.
Councilor Carp, would you like to give a brief presentation on this?
Certainly. So this addresses the issue of these larger scale battery storage systems that are starting to become popular, both for the purposes of saving energy that has been storing energy that's been generated at solar plants, but also even sometimes storing energy that's taken off the grid. So the NYSERDA, the New York State model law, breaks them down into two different categories, type 1 or tier 1 and tier 2. We followed a lot of other municipalities and have broken it into 3 different tiers. And tier 1 is the kind that you might have in your house, like a Tesla Powerwall, and that's not affected by the moratorium. Tier 2 is something that might be big enough for a decent sized commercial industrial application. And tier 3 are the ones that are like the size of a shipping container or larger. And as we'll get in, I'm working on the law regulating them right now. It's being reviewed by the chiefs of the various fire departments. These things are extremely dangerous. And if they do, they can spontaneously overheat, and that can create a cascading what's called a thermal runaway, where that can basically one cell failing and overheating the overheating can propagate to adjacent cells, and they release extremely toxic gases, including gases that turn into very caustic and poisonous acids when they contact water, and that includes even the moisture in your eyes and the moisture in your lungs. And they can explode. And so, while we recognize there's a need for these, they obviously need to be regulated. So this is putting a moratorium on any of their construction in the town of Cicero. There's not currently any pending applications. If there were, this would pause that while we're working on the law. So this is a 6-month? Or is it? Yeah, 6-month moratorium. I think the law is gonna be ready for us to vote on well before that. I'll comment on the 239M referral. The County Planning Board recommended that we use a different terminology, and Mr. Joanne, this will be a question for you. They recommend we use different terminology because it doesn't match the NYSERDA. They have tier 1 and 2, and we have tier 1, 2, and 3 with different definitions. Lots of other municipalities, towns, and villages in the state use the tier definitions that I selected for this, and I'm proposing to the board. I don't know if that goes against the county's recommendations to the level where we have to file that form justifying going against them or not. No. Yeah, and I sort of did it the way they did it because they want these things everywhere, basically. And if you're not educated on the subject, once you learn more about the dangers these prevent, you'll see why we don't want them everywhere. So other than that, they saw no problem with the moratorium. And like I said, this is 6 months, but I think we'll be ready to pass a comprehensive law within a month or 2 at the most.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, let's open the public hearing at 6:34 PM. Anybody like to come up and speak on behalf or against? If not, we'll close the public hearing at 6:34 PM. Move for the adoption resolution that the proposed action to adopt local law number 4 of the 2024 to approve a moratorium on the construction of certain types of battery energy storage systems as a type 2 action for the purposes of seeker compliance. The proposed adoption involves no permit granting authorities outside the town of Cicero, and no further seeker in inquiry or action is necessary.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Move the adoption resolution to approve the moratorium on the construction of certain types of battery energy storage. See attached local law to be known as local law number 4 of 2024.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Okay, public hearing to consider changes to chapter 210 of the town code related to the zoning enforcement. At this time, again, I'd like to wish to waive the reading of the legal notices that were posted and advertised.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Councilor Carp?
So these changes are really relatively minor and will be part of our ongoing process of code revision in conjunction with their comprehensive plan. We have basically increased the separation between a first offense and subsequent offenses. And narrowed the range for, if it's a third offense, basically narrowing the range. The maximum fine is still $1,000, but basically giving the court less discretion to assign a lower fine. We don't want to punish people too much. I mean, if it's their first offense, if they genuinely didn't understand or didn't know how to comply, didn't know the law was there. But we have a small but significant number of people in town that just don't care. And people who repeatedly violate the law knowingly and cause unsanitary or unsafe conditions or nuisance for their neighbors, and also for the town officials that have to enforce this, because there's a cost associated with that for the taxpayers, they should be held responsible. And so that's the primary focus of this.
Thanks. Open the public hearing at 6:36 PM. Anyone wish to come up to speak on behalf or against?
Good evening. Just some questions.
Sure. I'm just trying to get a copy. Sorry, Ms. Boyk, I'm just trying to get a copy of it out.
No problem.
Go ahead.
How are we going to notify, really notify the town, the residents of this law so that they are aware of it? Yes, it's in our codes and all that, but people don't read that stuff. You have an idea?
Well, I mean, it's not, there's really not much of a substantive change here.
No, I know, but most people don't know about it anyway.
That's
But
true.
I think with the idea of one boat, one trailer, one camper, whatever, I think that there's quite a few situations in this town that violate that.
Well, I would assume that the code enforcement, and Mr. Procopio can speak more to this, is going to be focusing primarily with the new law on education.
That's typically the case. I mean, before anybody gets a ticket, they've had ample opportunity to comply, be informed of any law that they may or may not be aware of, whether it's longstanding or new. So,
True, except for the fact that you are overwhelmed. Is it still the case where you need someone to file a complaint, or are we physically going to be able to,
no,
our code officer, if they see a violation, cite it?
certainly if there's something on view that we need to address, we can do that, but primarily our enforcement actions are complaint driven.
Right. But a lot of people aren't going to complain because they're afraid of repercussions that come back from that as well.
Right. And I mean, that's one of the reasons why we've always had the policy, and I think it's a good one, that we don't release the names of complainants,
True.
including in response to FOILs, because we don't want people to feel that they cannot come to their government for help when someone's violating the law. But as with most things, that's been as long as anyone's been coming here, most of them are going to go unreported, and then they're just going to go, it's going to go unenforced because they can't be everywhere at all times, and
True.
they're not psychic. So
People don't believe that you're not giving out their name.
there might be there might be a lack of level of trust in the government too.
Is your suggestion that we notify people of this change? Is that what you're getting at?
Well, I think somehow they need to be made aware that there are changes to local law, 210 in regards to somehow, whether it be the website or maybe put an article in the paper, news, or.
I don't know if they print it. I mean, certainly, I mean, and I know that there's another person who comes to these meetings frequently saying that. I mean,
I'm surprised he's not here.
so am I. But, you know, certainly perhaps we should, I mean, we already post on the website. We can certainly post copies of the new local laws on social media. I mean, there's only short of mailing it to everybody, which I don't think is practical, or cost effective. I mean, whatever we can do to increase, people's awareness of it. I mean, certainly we.
Right, I just a thought, just a
No, I
concern.
get it. And I wish more people would sign up for the email blasts and more people would check because again, what happens here affects them a lot more than what happens in Albany or Washington.
Repeated offenders that are already out there, are they going to fall under this law for penalties now? Because of the fact that say there's somebody that's already been warned twice, shouldn't he be or she be getting the number 3 penalty?
There's already been a tiered system. We've just modified it. So I don't think they need to reset. And Mr. Jermaine can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think they need to reset to 1 because they're already subject to a tiered system of penalties. If they have a prior conviction, then I would assume the new laws would apply to them. If they've already got 2 convictions in that period of time, then the 3rd one would be here. And it's not materially different. I mean, we didn't add jail or so. I would be more concerned if we added a possible incarceration when it wasn't there before, but since that hasn't changed.
Be fun.
What's that?
I know, but it would be fun.
Well, I mean, certainly, I mean, you don't like the idea of anyone having to go to jail over that, but you also don't like the idea of someone repeatedly just doing whatever they feel like when
Exactly.
it
I mean-
causes safety issues.
Well, and I think it's a kind of a copycat situation right now too. And we've had several discussions. I think that we've been too lenient in the past. So that's what we want to start to change. Because I think people are starting to copy because they're seeing us be so lenient.
Well, I mean, yeah, and people see someone going 80 miles an hour down Route 11, then more and more people are going to do
Right.
that. I mean, it's not the fault of the people. If you can only enforce so many things, but certainly less compliance or more non-compliance increases disrespect and people ignoring the law. Well,
Yeah.
that guy's got trash all over his yard. That guy speeds. That guy's got
Yeah.
chickens. That guy's got whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and it's a problem, you know, and obviously, you know, the codes office, they do the best they can. There's limited resources. And again, a lot of it, they just don't know about a violation if no one says anything.
Right. I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Boyke.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Please state your name and your address, please.
Tell me if this is not directly related, but I live on Mapleview Road in Cicero, and I have a neighbor who repeatedly he owns several properties in the neighborhood. I'll give you my Cliff Notes so you can look at it. And all of his residents have zoning violations. His present house at 7399 Mapleview Road has now presently a garage that has been turned into an apartment and a house. My neighborhood is zoned as a single family residence. However, with the town's knowledge, it is now 2 separate residents. One has a permanent tenant and the front house has a Airbnb. Talk about safety issues. The police, according to CNY alert, have been to Mapleview Road 7 times in June to address harassment, civil disputes, and other issues in the neighborhood. This is further complicated by the fact that we have a shared private waterfront, the Mapleview Park Association, which often looks like Green Lakes on weekends with all of Vern's tenants. We have hired a lawyer to deal with this issue, but I am begging the town. These are the issues that I know of. I'm sure there are many more. I have given the town documentation. I have filled out forms. I have given photos. You know, I realize my name is Karen. I have become the Karen of the neighborhood without a doubt. It is what it is, right?
You may as well acknowledge it. Yeah.
That's my
We're all there.
anxiety. I am the vice president of our association, and now I'm getting less nervous, so thank you for laughing. I don't know what to do anymore with this situation. It is out of hand. It has caused violent tendencies in my neighborhood. People are mostly blue collar workers and they are furious, and people are taking things into their own hands because nothing is being done. And there is all kinds of documentation that these things are occurring other than just my word. I have spent countless hours going over the violations, and I have provided the town with all of this information that is here. So thank you for listening. And I'm terrified. 4th of July is coming up, and I know it's going to be hell in my neighborhood.
So this isn't directly pertaining to the public hearing. That having been said, since she's already, I think we should probably just address it now.
Go ahead.
You know, I've seen your comments on Nextdoor. I've had extensive discussions with Mr. Bacallo, Mr. Procopio, and Mr. Aragano. And they're going to be, certainly Mr. Procopio is going to be able to comment more than I can. I mean, very sympathetic. The Airbnb situation is something that the regulations of that are coming, and they are being worked on as part of the comprehensive plan. There's been some proposals passed around because it needs to be addressed, because right now it's currently unregulated. An Airbnb is not an apartment. So, I mean, part of the problem and part of the reason why it's kind of a little bit like whack-a-mole dealing with it, at least right now, when we're not regulating short-term rentals, which is a lot harder of a subject to regulate than you would initially think. I mean, like an in-law apartment is not an apartment technically because it has common circulation with the rest of the house. Although it'd be weird for someone to rent an Airbnb that had circulation with their primary residence.
2 separate entrances. And
Does it have a door connecting them internally though? I mean, you may not know
Right.
because if you haven't been inside there. But anyway, I'll let Mr. Procopio comment. We are aware of your situation. We want to do what we can to help you. Obviously, we're limited by the way the code is right now, but I want you to know that we're not ignoring it. This has been a subject of a fair amount of discussion. It's not, from the inside, it's not always as easy to handle these as we would like it to be, let alone you would like it to be. So I want you to, you know, like, but this is something, and the short-term rentals are something that need to be addressed ultimately, because they're not going to decrease in popularity. They're only going to increase. So Mr. Procopio, you can comment further on this. He's, you know, and certainly, but I want
issue is not, I mean, the Airbnb complicates this issue. The issue is my neighborhood is zoned as a single family residence, and it is not.
okay. And I mean, certainly if that can be substantiated, again, that's something, but I want you to know while he's talking, we're going to keep an eye on this, and we're going to follow up. Like, we're not ignoring it. We're not just saying, okay, yeah, someone else is dealing with it, because we want to do whatever can be done. And I understand it's very difficult, obviously, when you have a conflict between neighbors, because it's something you live with every day and you see every day. So we recognize the difficulty that's inherent there. So Mr. Procopio, could you?
I mean, you explained it very well, and I've talked to Mrs. Bergwin and explained to her the same circumstances. We haven't permitted another apartment, you know, to be constructed or used. Her complaint initially from last year that a garage was turned into habitable space and was advertised in Airbnb, we pursued, we violated. It was remedied by adding it to the rest of the house, making it part of the rest of the home. We had them take out the kitchen appliances so that it couldn't be used as another living unit. Now her complaint is that those things have been put back in, and he's using it as a 2-family. Again, there's a difference between an apartment or an in-law. We're investigating that. We're attempting to gain entry. We've talked to the respondent, and he's consulting with his attorney, and we've consulted with our own counsel. So we are pursuing and doing everything we can to address any violation that might exist.
My concern is that I made the town aware that this happened. They were aware of his lengthy history. And I said, how are you going to enforce this if you allow him to build this structure that's hideous, connecting the garage to the house? And by then you've lost control, and given his history, you know what's going to happen. And exactly what I said happened. And now I'm told that, well, we can't get in there. We can't prove it, even though on the second page, you know, it's very clear that it's a shared residence from the Airbnb ad. And I don't know what other things to do other than.
We've attempted in the past to use those advertisements as evidence in court proceedings, and it has failed. And we've, again, we're consulting with our counsel again, and the recommendation is we need to physically see that there's a violation.
And that's why I brought that point up before you guys allowed the structure to connect the garage to.
What he was.
Just to be clear about something though, the fact that he may have a history of non-compliance does not mean that that's a valid basis for the town to deny him a building permit. You
Thank
can't
you.
say you can't have a permit because you violated the law in the past. We're not allowed to do that. Like, it might be easier for everybody if you could, because you might be able to avoid problems, but we can't. Like, basically, if a person qualifies for a building permit, they get a building permit. We don't have the discretion to consider their history. So you know, that's something we can't do. We would get sued and lose on that. Am I right about that, Mr. Jermaine? Yeah, we have no, it's not a discretionary act. You know, as far as I'll certainly discuss with Mr. Procopio, Mr. Jermaine about, I think, you know, his advertisement should be admissible if you deal with hearsay properly. But we'll follow up on this. I want you to know, again, we're not ignoring it. We
appreciate
you
that.
know, whatever can be done, certainly to address the situation to the extent that it might violate the law, we will do everything we can to get it done. And regulations in the short-term rentals, which is probably part of the problem. Those are coming.
So this is in the words of the,
Of the owner.
Yes.
so in the past, the words of the property owner has been denied by the court?
You have to, it's a hearsay issue, but that can be dealt with. Yeah.
I just want you to know that on behalf of myself, I appreciate you coming so professionally tonight and just presenting everything as is. I'm new to this situation, as new to the board this year, but I am going to be looking into this and trying to understand it further because I understand where you're coming from. And I don't want this to be a situation where it's like, oh, do you feel heard? Let's just move on. Because
Well, and
that's
that's the
not it.
problem. I don't
Yeah.
get the feedback
Right.
other than we're going to look into it.
Yeah.
And then the next thing I know, there's another house and there's
Right.
more
And
violence.
it's not just you, because if this is happening, then this is happening in other areas on the lake as well.
It well
And
might be,
it's-
as we discussed, not everybody complains, so.
Right. And so it's important. It's important that we get these resolved. So I'm going to be looking into this. as
I
well.
appreciate that. I appreciate your time. And if there's anything else you need from me, I'm on your side, really.
No, thank you again for coming again.
Thank
It's
you.
not easy.
Thank you. This is not pertaining to this,
Yeah,
but
This is a public hearing on
public
something
hearing on
else.
something, right, correct.
she came up and got in the middle of it, so we didn't want to make her sit down and restart, but you can, if you want to address Airbnbs, we can talk about that at the end of the meeting. Sorry.
I wanted to speak further on 7399 Mapleview Road. Is that okay? Should I do it now or do it later?
I say wait till the end of the meeting.
We're already
I
in.
think we should.
Yeah,
wait.
as long as it's on the same subject, yeah.
I've been a Onondaga County journeyman plumber for 41 years, and this is my way of attacking this problem. That garage was turned into an apartment. It was definitely turned into an apartment. There were people living in there. So there's a bathroom in there and there's a kitchen in there. And there was no plumbing permit pulled. There was no plumbing inspection. I've been on the phone with plumbing control. I'm very familiar with plumbing control, as I told you. For 41 years, I've been a plumber and not about the plumbing supervisor, Dennis Meiser, I spoke to, said, I have nothing on that address. But I'm gonna check into it further and get back to you. He has not gotten back to me. I made another phone call today to plumbing control and talked to John Turnowski. Dennis Meisner was not available at the time. And Dennis Turnowski told me the exact same words. He looked up the address. He said, I have nothing on that address. Now, Steve Procopio stood in front of my driveway, stood in my driveway and told me 2 days ago that all the permits have been satisfied there. The plumbing permits been satisfied and electrical and building permits have been satisfied. And yet the plumbing control said they have not sent out an inspector and there was not a plumbing permit pulled at the time. This stuff is all put in and all finished. And supposedly someone went out there and inspected it. This is what Steve Procopio told me. I got a different story when I called plumbing control. And Steve Procopio also told me that there's in the plumbing code that a homeowner can pull his own permit. And I can assure you that that does exist. But I also can assure you, after going through many plumbing inspections with these inspectors, there is no way that they would pass the plumbing when it was put in by the homeowner, who was not a plumber, after the fact. Therefore, it's all done. After the line has been connected underground, the sewer was connected, the kitchen was put in, the bathroom was put in, and of course, I told you that they had nothing on that address. So someone's not telling me the truth here, about, what's going on in there. And I think this avenue here will give you, some leverage into getting in there and finding out what's going on. Also, I know the previous owner, that lived there, he still lives in the neighborhood, he moved around the corner. And if I could quote his phone message to me, when he bought the house, Murray Giles, when he bought the house, there was only electric. Plumbing was done after the fact. So I'm quoting the previous owner. And I've been in that garage myself. All he had was a light in there. I mean, I've been in that garage probably a half a dozen times before Vern owned the garage. Now there's people living in it. And I can assure you, people are living in it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You can just put it down.
Anyone else on this topic? Not, we'll close the public hearing at 6:55 PM. Move to adopt a resolution that the proposed action to adopt local law number 5 of 2024, approving the changes to chapter 210 of the town code related to the zoning enforcement and to require special code permit or special use permit for certain kinds of development as an unlisted action for the purpose of seeker compliance. A short form environmental assessment form has been prepared and modifications of the proposed action will not have any negative impact on the environment. According to the proposed action, it does not require the preparation of a draft environmental impact statement or any other statement as adopted.
Second.
Discussion.
This does not address, special use permit. That's something that must have been copied and pasted from a prior, because there's no special use permit, being addressed in this.
Yeah.
In this local law. So I would just ask you to amend your.
Sure.
To your,
Right. I'll let
motion.
you amend it.
Well, you
Make a motion to amend this.
you can, yeah, okay. No objection.
Okay. To comply with it.
And it has been seconded.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Wish to vote no or abstain, passed. Move to adopt a resolution approved changes chapter 210 of the code relating to zoning enforcement. See attached local law to be known as local law number 5 of 2024.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Public hearing to consider the changes to chapter 68 of the town code. Again, I'll waive the wish to waive the reading of the legal notices that are posted in.
Still moved.
Gotta let him finish. You gotta let him finish. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Gotta be you.
Okay, Councilor Carp, want to give another one?
Okay, so there's two components to this. One of them, as we discussed at the last meeting, we're allowed to charge fees in lieu of parkland, basically per unit when apartment complexes get built for capital improvements to our parks. So what we talked about at the last meeting was changing the local law because right now the $500 per unit is hard coded into the code, which means every time you want to change that, instead of just making a resolution, you have to change the local law. So one of the things that we did in this is say that it's just an amount to be set by the town board. We passed this in October of 2018, and everyone's aware of the inflation that's happened since then. So $500 in October of 2018 is about $620 today. It's a pretty significant difference. Obviously, we want to keep up with inflation, but we did something else, and we're going to be doing it with single family residences as well. The way the state law works is by default, there's no parkland requirement when someone builds an apartment complex, but the planning board is allowed to tell a developer, hey, you have to include green space, you have to include parks or recreation facilities as part of your development. And then if the planning board makes a finding that it's not practical to do, well, sorry, first they have to make a finding that we need more recreational space because of the development. And then they have to have a finding that it's not practical to put that recreational space in the project. Only once you've gone through all those steps can you charge this fee. And doesn't get challenged around here, but other parts of the state, those findings have been challenged quite a bit. We don't need more parks. We need to improve the parks that we have. And so one of the things that we're allowed to do as a town board is we're allowed to supersede certain parts of state law. Basically, we can override certain parts of state law. And the town law is what we're allowed to override. And what I just talked about with these findings and parks is in the town law. So what we're going to be doing with this is we're going to override the state law. So instead of the default being no parks and only if you make all these findings, then you get to charge a fee, the default is now going to be they have to pay us a fee per unit. And we did include a little bit of an escape clause if they want to offer land and the planning board determines that the land they offer is at least as valuable as the fees we would get, the planning board can recommend to us that we take it as a dedication, and then we could decide to take that land. As a practical matter, I can't really see why we would want to do that unless someone wanted to offer us lakefront property or something that might be particularly useful. But we want to leave the option out there for us. So from now on, when anyone wants to build apartments in Cicero, and I think we all know that's probably coming because it's going to get shoved down our throats one way or another, at least we will be able to collect these fees and use them to improve the parks, because we are going to need a lot more recreational facilities for the new residents. So that's what we're doing. We're going to do the same thing with residential subdivisions. We'll be setting a public hearing later in this meeting.
Okay, anyone else? Public hearing, we'll open the public hearing at 7:00 PM. Anyone come up and speak on it before, for or against this? No, okay. 7 PM, close the public hearing. Move the adoption resolution, proposed action to adopt local law number 6 of 2024, bring changes to chapter 68 of the town code relating to zoning enforcement and to require a special use permit for certain kinds of development. It's unlisted action for a purpose of seeker compliance. A short form environmental assessment form has been prepared, and modifications as to proposed action will not have a negative impact on the environment. According to the proposed action, it does not require preparation of a draft environmental impact statement or any other statement as adopted.
Second.
Missing this one, do?
Yeah, we
Zoning
we could
enforcement, yeah.
amend it to say that it's in relation to fees in lieu of parkland.
Amend this to state the fees of the parkland fees.
Yeah, and strike the related to zoning enforcement and the special use permit language.
And strike the related use of the enforcement, correct?
Mhm.
Okay,
I just realized.
Second, as amended.
thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
All abstained, passed.
Were you gonna wait on the decision on this?
Oh, yeah, we can do the seeker. Mr. Jermaine, you think we should refer this as a good practice to the county planning? Is it okay that we've passed the seeker and we'll just wait on the decision until after it's been referred? Okay. It's been closed. All right, so we'll wait to vote on this till the next meeting, so we've had a chance to refer it to county planning.
Okay. You got it. No decision. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, public hearing to consider local law number, local law pursuant to the real property tax law, section 487, to adopt out of tax exemptions for certain energy generation and storage systems. At this time, again, I'd like to waive the readings of the legal notices that were posted and advertised.
So
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Okay.
All right, so we opted out of tax exemptions for wind and solar. Basically, there's in section 47, the real property tax law says that with certain energy storage systems, if you don't opt out, then the land is taxed as if these things weren't built on there. So if you've driven by Northern Boulevard and you've seen all of those solar arrays or any other solar array in the area, if you don't opt out this local law, that land gets taxed as if it's vacant. Obviously, it's not something we want to do. We would like to tax money on those solar arrays. It's also something that's available for battery energy storage systems like the ones we passed the moratorium on, and other means of generating power, hydroelectric and things like that. The exemption only applies to the amount that your property was increased in value. So we did have someone at the last meeting ask about what if someone puts a Tesla power wall in their house. That doesn't increase your assessment, so this would not affect you. You're not going to get an exemption if it doesn't increase your assessment. So this isn't going to affect any individual that puts a battery system in their house. So this is really only for the large scale things because we think they should be taxed based on their value if they get built.
This time, open up the public hearing at 7:03. Anyone would like to come up and speak for or against this? If not, 7:03, we'll close the public hearing and we'll move for the adoption resolution that the proposed action To adopt the local law number 7 of 2024, moving a local law pursuant to real property tax, section 487, to opt out of tax exemptions for certain energy generation and storage systems as a type 2 action for the purpose of seeker compliance. The proposed adoption involves no permit granting authority outside the town of Cicero. No further seeker inquiry action is necessary.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Move for the adoption resolution to approve the local law pursuant to real property law, section 47, to opt out of the tax exemption for certain energy generation and storage systems to be known as local law number 7 of 2024.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed. Okay, number 8.
Move the adoption resolution to set a public hearing for July 10th, 2024 at 6:30 PM to consider a 6-month extension of the development moratorium for the Lakeshore area that was passed on February 14th, 2024.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed.
Move the adoption resolution to set a public hearing for July 10th, 2024 to consider changes chapter 185 of the town code. The purpose of these changes is to reform subdivision procedures as they relate to parkland and fees in lieu of parkland.
Second.
Discussion.
This is really just a residential subdivision equivalent of what I discussed earlier with the apartments. Same thing, will eliminate the default of there not being any parkland and just charge developers per lot when they build residential subdivisions to help pay for park improvements.
Anyone else? All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed.
Authorizing Onondaga County Division of Purchasing to advertise sealed bids for the town of Cicero collection and disposal of all refuse, rubbish, garbage, and recyclables for the town of Cicero. Move the adoption of resolution to authorize the Office of Purchasing Director of the Onondaga County Division of Purchase located at the John H. Mulroy Civic Center, 13th floor, 421 Montgomery Street, Syracuse, New York, 13202, to advertise a bid for the collection and disposal of all refuge, rubbish, garbage, and recyclables for the town of Cicero.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Wish to vote no or abstain, passed.
Move for the adoption of a resolution approving a copier lease agreement with Usherwood Office Technology. Usherwood provided the most competitive quote for a 48-month term at $125 monthly. Additional quotes received for the same term were $145 monthly from Toshiba and $207.86 from Ed and Ed. Budget code 002-8010-4000-0000.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain, passed.
Pro Housing Community Program. Move for the adoption resolution to apply for New York State Pro Housing Community Certification. Communities with pro housing community designation are eligible to apply for more grant funding opportunities from the state.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, I would just like, if we could hold off until next meeting, I would just like, Mr. Jermaine, if you could just look this over once for us. Yeah, it's the due date's July 31st, correct? So we have another meeting still. That's just my, if we could do that.
I have no objection. I mean, I'm okay with it, but I have no objection to waiting, or if you want to examine it further. I mean, it's fine.
No problem.
And I appreciate the work that people, Ms. Fiorello, and I appreciate you attending that meeting, virtual meeting the other day.
No,
Put it-
Mr. Supervisor, you spoke yesterday too.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's more questions I had after the meeting. I just think it's due diligence by us to have Mr. Jermaine look it over too.
It doesn't impact the timeline.
No, I did speak to someone from the county and they just stated that it's not gonna hurt the town if we enter into this agreement and it'll also give us open some funding for us. So that's all I'll say about it, but we'll talk about it next meeting.
Or in between.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robert.
Okay.
Can we just table that then?
Yeah.
Yeah. All in favor to table this?
Not needed.
No.
But aye.
Okay. Okay.
Move for the adoption of a resolution that the town board approves and authorizes the supervisor to execute the fireworks permit application from Skylighters of New York LLC to be held at Lakeshore Yacht and Country Club 6777 Lakeshore Road, Cicero, New York on June 29th, 2024 at approximately 9:45 PM and to accept the $100 permit fee. All acquired signatures have been obtained.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain?
Move for the adoption of a resolution to approve an expenditure for the Springbrook Software Finance Suite purchase orders and fixed assets modules in the amount of $16,941.65 budget code 001-1315-4120-0000.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Vote no or abstain. Passed. Okay, discussion. This time, anybody else have discussion? No?
Yeah, well, you go first. I'll go after.
We'd like to take a moment to thank David Eef, for his time on our planning board. David's, a pretty busy man. And, we want to wish him the best of luck.
Yeah, he's resigned. I guess we should probably throw
Yeah.
that out there too. We know it, but I don't know if they know it. Yeah, so one of the things I wanted to bring up, I've been talking with the other counselors. I think we all know more developments coming to Cicero. And it's obviously a great concern of us to address the impacts and the quality of life for Cicero residents. Something I've been looking into, and like I said, I've discussed with other counselors, is working on something called dark skies legislation. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. It's legislation intended to address light pollution that comes from development. And I don't know. I mean, I live in Hiller Heights. I've had the experience of being in my front yard and being able to basically read a book at 10 o'clock at night with the light coming from Drivers Village. Now, this legislation is not going to immediately restrict existing developments. Over time, as people make improvements, just like with any other new law, or they change things or upgrade things, they will have to comply. But this will apply to new commercial, industrial, et cetera. The impact on residential would be minimal to none, because let's be honest, light pollution really is not a problem coming from residential developments for the most part. It's coming from commercial developments. And this addresses both whether or not lights are directed at the sky, but also the fact that it requires dimming features to be installed, and also sets limits on times. Because if you've ever been to a rural area where you can see the stars at night, it's kind of nice, and it's very bad for wildlife to have all these bright lights at night. It causes real demonstrable issues for birds, insects, and even fish. And so, with the presumed development that we have coming, I think this is something that we should be looking at. I did include, so far in the battery energy storage system law, some requirements for the larger battery developments addressing this. If we're able to complete this law prior to the passage of the battery regulation law, then I would just pull those out, and everything would be subject to that. But I think it's something that needs to be addressed. It's kind of depressing looking up at night and just seeing like an orange glow reflecting back.
It's not just businesses. I mean, look at what Loso did over in that whole section of Lakeshore and Mudmill. It's
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
They flooded that entire
Yeah,
area.
I guess when I'm thinking commercial, I'm thinking apartments
Yeah.
too, but you're right,
Yeah.
no. And this would apply to new apartment developments too. I think really just addressing dimming, and also the fact that the lights have to be set so they're not
Like the
directed.
new LEDs on the
Yeah.
streets are pointed down.
Yes, and which does decrease some of the lighting spillover, but it also decreases lighting spillover into people's bedrooms too, because I have a light in my front yard, and it was not pleasant, even with blackout blinds, having that orange glow from those old
Right.
starting. Yeah. It's not pleasant. It's nice when nights are dark. And like I said, it's much better for wildlife.
It'd be nice if the stadium could fall under that.
Yeah.
Can we regulate the school district on something like that with timing of their lights? Because they're another municipality, basically. No. We can have a conversation with them about it anyway.
Anybody else have anything?
I think it'll be easier to start with new builds, because then they could use certain new lights and timers that are available because of this
Yep.
issue.
And then there'll be a
And kind of
threshold,
spread.
and there'll be a threshold if they upgrade or whatever to a certain percentage, then they have to comply. But we would not want to, nor could we just come in and say, okay, Roger Burdick, replace every light in your parking lot. That would not be
Right.
just.
They use a dimming system, and if not a turn off.
They might now. They didn't used to, I can tell you that.
Well,
but-
they have LEDs now.
Well, frankly, with the cost of electricity, I don't know how anyone can afford to have those things blasting all the time anyway.
Well, there's vandalism is the big
That's a problem
concern.
too,
That's
yeah.
why they want to keep the lights on,
No, and there's definitely a balance to be struck, but I don't know that they
Sure.
have to be that bright
Uh-huh.
all the time.
for sure.
The last thing on the list here, we have a 25-year celebration at the canteen on this Thursday, 4 to 7 p.m. If you'd like to attend, we'd love to have you. Okay, with that being said, open up for a public comment. Come on up. State your name and your address if you could, please.
657 Stady, right there.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I live on East Davy Road. If you look at the map that I gave you, it says Davy Road and I wrote east on all of them. So it's East Davy Road, which means Davy Road. Okay? Now, issue here is access as well as VRBO. Okay? This right here is the only paid sanctioned entrance to Davy, East Davy Road. You go from a 16-foot easement right away to a 12-foot easement. You cannot get anything bigger than a pickup truck around that corner. Do you agree, Mike? From
I do.
driving there all the time. In the winter, it's even a worse nightmare, isn't it?
Sure is.
Okay, so we cannot get UPS that way. I can't get an arborist in there. They take down trees that are dead, threatening our houses. And the reason that we can't do that, well, let me back up a little.
Press the button. No, the one on the podium.
Hello?
The one on the podium might work better. If you press the button on it, sir.
So this one's off.
Is it? Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Sometimes people use the other.
Okay, and I'm sorry this picture didn't make your packet.
Okay,
That one out.
thank you.
This is how it used to
Tables
look
there.
there. Okay? This is 12 years ago. This is when poor Paul Joslin died. Okay? This is how his house was. If you look at the next page in your package, you notice that garage has definitely had a bit of work done to it, hasn't it, Steve? Over here. Okay, was this permitted? To convert this garage with a dirt floor into living space?
You asking me a question?
Yes, was that permitted?
As you know, you have an open complaint pending with us that you.
Yes, I have an open
Right.
complaint
So
on.
no, it was not.
So
Sorry.
this was not permitted. Okay, you've got a cement floor put in. You've got it totally converted to a studio apartment. If you read the listing here, this was 696 square foot. Before over 400 square foot of the garage was added onto it with a full bath plus a full kitchen. This is no longer a one-bedroom house. This is a two-family with a studio and a one-family. This has been reported for a year. What's been done? A year. This is obvious. This is direct code violations, and we can't even do anything about it.
Mr. Nichols,
This is also listed twice in the VRBO with the turtle and I forget what the other is, but you can see two kitchens. And it is fraud to have that listed on VRBO, take payments unless there are two apartments in that building. So why is it still in use? It should have been shut down. The whole house should have been shut down because it's illegal in a one-family neighborhood. Why haven't you shut it down, Steve?
Mr. Nichols, you complained, this was converted by the previous owner. You never complained about it then, and you brought it to our attention after.
Oh, in the emails,
Steve,
there was a.
I mean,
piece
Mr.
of
Nichols-
paper in the window.
You ask a question, let the man finish. Sorry.
So, and you brought this complaint to our attention after it came under the current ownership and was listed on VRBO, but never, so you made this complaint years after this property, we had now.
That
this
was
property
a
was
green slip in the paper. They committed fraud by, and I will swear in court,
Again,
there was a building permit in the window here while they were illegally making this into a two-family. VRBO, which now we start getting into parking and access.
Okay? If you go back to this right here. If you look right here. Okay? This was a right of way in use till 1953. This stuff was flooded in 1900. The red building next to it was a barn that was built in 1900 according to Zillow. Okay, so my property had direct access to Catherine Road from 1900 to 1953. In 1953, a Mrs. Webb that lives where Tim Cassane now lives created a one-lane driveway because the existing right-of-way does not facilitate any trucks making the turn. This is still a deeded right-of-way, which the town has decided not to maintain since 1953. However, the right that my property had from 1900 to 1953.
Can you just step back behind the podium, please?
There had unfeathered access to Catherine Road was violated when the fire department decided to take Mrs. Webb's Road and expand it in order for fire trucks to get in there. Since 1953, even though the town has to send, well, there's a sign up right now. This sign right here. Okay? Private road. The only way that private road sign partially landlocks our land. We can't get trucks in. Like we said, Mike just said, anything bigger than a pickup truck, you can't get from Davie to East Davie. Okay? The garbage truck. I've never heard of a garbage truck being an emergency vehicle. That's all they can go down here. Okay? This is BS so that they don't have to treat it like a town road, which means it should be paved. Now, when we look at the space itself, they put in a culvert back in 1953. One end of it, and I'm sorry, this is a picture that's not in there again, is right here. 2 feet from the property. It actually lines up with the property line. Now, why is it 36 feet wide? Because fire trucks have to make the corner. And there are absolutely no parking signs. We have the cops parking in there during the fireworks, so nothing can get there. Additionally, fire trucks can't get in. My property is within 400 feet of the Brewerton fireworks. Okay? The regulation for fireworks is that the safety area is 6 times the height of the fireworks. Okay? We are sitting back approximately 500 feet and we're looking up at 40, 45 degrees. There's no way in hell those things are not going over 100 feet. And the safety area should be 600 feet. The town is putting us in jeopardy, not only during these fireworks, but the entire time by not taking control of that property, making it an easement, which it should be, so that we can get signs put up. If you have a car parked in the right of way, and I know this for a fact because there is another right of way, and Ken Jimmy used to put cars in the right of way. And the cops used to tell me it's a civil issue. Yes. So we are dead meat if cars are parked in that intended for fire trucks way, because the town has been negligent in caring for it. It hasn't put up a damn sign. In the wintertime, 2 winters before this, I had to plow that damn dirt road myself, even though I called Chris multiple times. This year I went to Mike. That was after the town plowed. Show you on the map. Boy, I got it. From right here, all the way to here, into my yard, blocking my access, even though I have no trespassing signs up. Okay, we have a culvert. Told you, culvert was put in. How's that for the condition of our culvert? And I can't get the damn highway department to even address it. This is to stop the dirt road from washing out. If you look the other way. Look at the great condition that culvert lead in is. Okay? And I can't get a damn thing done. Because it's quote unquote private property and there's no damn easement. So the highway department guy says, Chris says, I'm not doing it. He doesn't care.
Hey. Relax and stand back
He
over.
doesn't care if we can't get ambulances down there. He doesn't care if we can't get snowplows down there.
Mr. Nichols, if you.
I am pissed.
if-
This is ridiculous and he is putting our lives in danger.
Mr. Nichols, just calm down and relax.
I have every
Can-
right.
can-
How would you like
Who-
your
Mr.
house
Nichols,
being threatened,
Mr.
your life being threatened
Mr.
due
Nichols.
to negligence?
Do you want to have a conversation? You just want to sit there and yell at us?
I want something done. We are in
So, okay.
unsafe condition and I'm ready to sue, quite frankly. Go ahead, he says. This is the guy that's threatening our lives by failing to do his job, saying, go ahead.
He
No,
didn't
that was
say
the town attorney and he's, sir, if you'd like a response, you'd like us to have a conversation with you, then you need to treat us with respect. Respect's a two-way street.
Okay,
So I'm not going to stand here and have you pound on the podium and yell at us and criticize town employees.
And we've had
So-
this, yeah, excuse.
No, go ahead, Mike. You've talked to him. I
And,
haven't.
and we spoke about this, that this property belongs to who?
Jesus Scorsese, and we also talked about how it is a town road
Okay.
because it's the only way the town can provide services for us because you can't get around the other end. And you can't tell us to take our garbage and put it out on Catherine because Chief Snell tried that. When can Jamie try to make us move the trash? You can't tell us to put it anywhere without the permission of the property owner. So how do you get our trash if you don't have that? It's a right of way. And a garbage truck is not an emergency vehicle. This
Mr.
is
Jermaine,
all employed, not to have
if
to.
we
do
could
the
get,
road.
if Mr. Scarzoli was willing to turn the property over to the town, could we do that?
The question, there's a lot of questions here that I would have.
There are.
One is the road isn't,
The road's not to specs.
it's not up to spec, it would have to be up to Cornell Road standard specs that have to be built. You have to take that, proper dedication, which means rebuild the spec with adequate securities posted and so on. These are large issues.
The property belongs to a gentleman who used to own, Syracuse.
Drive.
This should be covered under eminent domain. This threatens people's lives. This has been in place for 50-some years. This should be beyond Gene's. The town should be making them a fair offer. If you consider that it's about 1.68 acres to take 36 by 200 feet, which is the space that would be needed to be able to ensure that fire trucks can make that corner. If you take a $50,000 an acre, you're talking $10,000. It's a fair offer for the town to make. If he refuses it, eminent domain, you still have to pay him a fair amount. The only thing is that somebody gets to decide what it is, the courts. But this is at the point and endangers lives to the point that is negligence for the town not to ensure fire trucks can make it to our house.
Mr. Jermaine, do we have any exposure for liability on this or no?
What if we took dedication of the road?
Right, but as it stands now, do we have any exposure for liability?
You can't get fire trucks to our house.
Free to say.
Okay.
We'll look into it. Robert, we'll look into it.
This is also what we're getting from the VRBO. How is a fire truck supposed to turn left and turn right with that space? This really does endanger lives.
I think if the vehicles are parking on that road and it belongs to Mr. Scorzoli, it would be up to him to put some signs up there that say no parking on the road. How would that, Robert, how would that, if that was the case, how could that be addressed? Obviously, the police that would go there and say you're,
It's trespass,
It's trespass. It's
Okay.
private
right?
road. We don't.
Private trespass.
Someone parks-
He'd have the absolute right to whatever action he has to take against those vehicles on his property. It's just like if someone parked on your property, on your lawn.
But they can't just go and randomly ticket. There would have to be a complaint because,
well, we can get them sent.
what's that?
Like, you can send them. Like,
Sure.
If there's anybody on the road.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they can't do it, there has to be something to generate their action.
Yeah.
I've even
You can have
called the
a tow
cops
place
on
on.
there and they say there's enough room for your car to get by, good enough. It's not. And that whole area needs to be plowed in the wintertime. Right now, we got 1 8-inch swipe down that road. How does a fire truck get down 1 8-inch swipe and then make a corner from that 8 foot swipe onto East Davie? It can't do it. You have created a unsafe position, and I don't see how the town cannot have liability given that it knows that it's making it so a fire truck cannot get to our house.
I understand.
Okay, Mr.
There's
Nichols.
liability there.
Okay, we're gonna,
So what's gonna happen? Where's some actions? And what's happening with VRBO? Because we're having, I have one more picture.
we're in the middle of a comprehensive plan right now, and that's being addressed in the plan as we speak.
So what's going to be done in that interim time to stop the danger that my family is being put in due to him making this, where you can't see where the road even is? And the town has failed to put up any indications whatsoever, so the police didn't even tell the people that they can't park there because fire trucks needed to be able to make it into our property. So the town is sitting here, what are you gonna do to stop a potentially life-killing situation?
So you're looking for an answer right this minute? You're not going to get an answer right this minute. You've come in here and presented this to us, which most of us haven't heard before. You've sat here and yelled at us, thrown a lot of information at us. We have obligations to look into these things, but I'm not going to give you a snap answer right now. And I don't think anybody else up here is willing to
Okay,
do
so
that either.
then you're accepting liability if this gets.
No, I'm
played.
not. Don't put words in our mouth.
Well, you know about it and you're refusing to take any action. You could put up signs, you could put up barriers
Okay,
to
Mr.
stop.
It's a
people from
private
parking.
property, sir. It's private property. It's not ours.
The best way to
That's why
get,
you have to
excuse
do
me,
eminent
excuse me.
domain and get it.
The best way to get something accomplished is to have a two-way conversation. You are
I
not
have had
presenting
that
it in
with
that way.
Vinetsky. I have been going since
Listen,
Vinetsky with this.
this
I have
comes
been
back
going with Mike
to-
for 3 years with this.
This is a one-sided conversation that you are having. Every time someone tries to speak back, you do not speak.
You're just talking at us, not with us. Look, we take this seriously. We're going to talk about it, but it's not reasonable for you to come in here and expect an answer right now. It's not.
It's reasonable to expect some temporary things done to stop a hazardous situation. And that's what we're talking about here, a hazardous situation that can which could cause someone's death. So there should be some immediate actions on the table to find out. Someone's got to do the investigation, someone's going to do this, someone's going to do that. That's how business works. You take action items to get things done. You don't leave something open. This is being left open.
We want to thank you for coming tonight.
So when am I going to hear something here?
Mr. Nichols, we'll talk to you later.
My name is Gretchen Yeager. I have the misfortune of following him and living with him, so I apologize. But I wanted to add just two quick things if I could.
Sure.
The reason this came to head, in my opinion, is that about a week ago, the town came through and changed the signage. And the signage has made things much more restrictive, if you will. Fortunately, it's not winter when they change their signage because then we'd have a big problem. But for as long as I've lived there, and beyond, because I've talked to neighbors who have confirmed, the town has, we were told, put that in there. So the town made that road. Scorzelli did not make that road. The town made the road, thereby taking responsibility for the road. The town has maintained, now I don't know if this was all a gentleman's agreement, which I'm fine with as long as it works for everyone. I don't know what's written, if there is anything.
So we
I didn't
did, we
see
did look into that and we could not find anything on the books in the history of that property being there. I just wanted to let you know that.
That's fine, because the world functioned that way very well.
Sure.
Many, many years. But the problem is by saying that the town is not going to maintain it, we now have some big problems. And the irony for me is a week before, 2 weeks before, the town maintained it. They came out, filled potholes, put crushed stone down, made the road much more passable, much more safe, beautiful. And a couple of weeks later, put a sign up that said they're not going to maintain it, which blew my mind. I don't understand that. I don't know what the process policy was within the confines, but
And I'm sorry to interrupt you, ma'am, but just so we have some background here, because all I have is the photograph of it exists now. What did the sign say previously? You said they changed the signage. What did it say previously?
I think it said
And
private
it was
road.
actually intended for our private road that goes behind Kanjami's. That one now no longer has a private road
But-
sign.
But specifically, what did it say before?
I know what it did not say. It did
Okay.
not say that the town would not maintain it, whatever that.
Okay, it didn't say no town maintenance. Did it say,
It didn't say that.
it just said private
I
road?
think it just said private road. I don't think it said the emergency vehicles. I,
Through traffic. Okay, all right. I just,
everyone.
I'd like to have the background. I just want to have the background because you said it
No.
changed. Okay.
And it was used for 73 years without any paperwork.
Okay, I
That
like-
means that we have the right.
Mr. Nichols.
I just wanted to put that point out.
No, appreciate it.
Because it does. look
That's
like
helpful.
That they maintained it and within a month, couple of weeks, they're saying they're not going to maintain it. So I don't understand that. And I am very concerned about the winter time. And we do need to be able to get out to Catherine Road that way. I personally could go to the end and go out, Davy, but I'm not getting any younger and I might need an ambulance someday and I live on the water and I might witness somebody needing the ambulance someday. Or we're very close in there and there are we're on the water, there's lots of bonfires. We may need a fire truck down there. It needs to be resolved, so.
So the town plows this currently, or they do not?
This last winter.
So they
was
have until this last
every
winter.
year. Yep.
Mike, we've plowed that every year. I was approached by Mr. Scarzelli just prior to I was putting the signs up. And he was going to block the road off. He didn't want anybody on that road because I assumed it's his property. It's private property. There's nothing on the books that say it's a town easement. We have hearsay, but there's nothing on books that says there's a town easement there, a right of way. So Mr.
Robert?
Scarzelli was going
I'd
to.
like to take a break for a minute and maybe go into executive session, just as, the reason would be to, have legal advice from your attorney.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
outside the bounds of the open meetings law, we need a, motion in a second.
Motion to move an executive session to obtain legal advice.
Aye.
The use of it by 73 years that Gene cannot stop us from using it.
Oh,
Because,
It's a private property. Right? I was talking.
well, there's a building in New York. We need to go through because we have 30.
Motion to resume. Who,
Second,
Mike Marizio?
I seconded.
7:50. Okay, Mr. Nichols, we've, spoke to our attorney and we will be getting back to you. Thank you. Anyone else? Anyone else? Thank you. Thank you very much. This time, make a
Move to
motion.
adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Aye.